What's going on, guys? This is Chase with iDub Hockey, sitting down with Scott Van Horn, who's the VP of Product and Development for True Hockey. Scott, thanks so much for sitting down and talking with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, really exciting this year. Not only are you launching a nice hockey skate line with the TF9, TF7, but also we see that on the roller hockey side too. So before we hop into all the exciting tech and spec in both the TF9, TF7, I always like to talk about fit profile. So how would you describe the overall foot design that best fits your TF9, TF7 skates?
For sure. So we've designed the fit of the skate, obviously based off of our custom skate, with decades of research and tens of thousands of foot scans. We've been able to develop a really comfortable, optimized fit shell, which basically drives the overall fit of the skate, and the shell is the carbon fiber component with the thermoplastic polymers. Mm-hmm. We have it in a wide width and a normal width. So those two profiles are going to fit 90% of the buying public. Beyond that, we recommend you get into a custom skate, so we can really accommodate any foot, but the stock skate's going to accommodate, the wide variety of feet.
Yeah, unless you've been buying custom skates in the past because of your odd foot shape, this is going to fit you whether it's in the standard or the wide fit.
Yeah, and then the heat moldability is going to take it to the next level too.
And that's what's really put, True, kind of separated True from the pack is the fit profile of how it really forms around the foot and the overall thermoformability of the skate. So we see this really in both characteristics, or in both the TF9, TF7, but what is really the concept behind this one-piece boot, and how does it benefit you as a player?
So the concept behind the one-piece boot is essentially it's the shell. I should have actually brought a shell, but anyways, the shell component it's the main structure of the boot. The difference between the TF7 and TF9 is the TF7, it's more fiberglass. We really wanted to have all of the performance attributes of the TF9, but be able to deliver it at a lower price point. The only way you can do that is you have to strip out some of the expensive material. So carbon fiber is very expensive. Fiberglass is a much less expensive material that still functions quite well. It weighs a bit more and it's not quite as stiff as a carbon fiber. So those would be the main differences in the shell between the TF7 and TF9.
Mm-hmm. But the overall performance is really on par with one another as far as how that boot wraps around the foot. So that's something very, very different from a traditional two-piece boot or two-piece shell that some people call it. So how does it really differ, and what is that? How does that set you apart from the competition?
Well, with a one-piece shell like we have with the TF7 and the TF9, you're going to get much better power transfer to the surface, to the pavement. You're not getting any of that movement and decoupling that you get with a two-piece skate. We're kind of limited actually with a one-piece where we can only really use higher-end materials. It's harder to make a one-piece shell out of cheap plastics. I mean, I guess it can be done, but that's not a path we're going down.
Right. And something I've noticed with your skates too that I always like to recommend to people is when you first get them, you have to make sure you bake these because of just how well they form around your foot.
Absolutely. We actually, with custom skates in particular, we never want you to try them on cold. The first time you try them on, they should be hot out of the oven, and it's going to wrap and you're going to get that perfect fit every time. With the stock skates, out of the box, they're going to be comfortable. In my opinion, they're more comfortable than any other skate on the market. I designed them to be that way. But once you heat mold them, it takes it to the next level. So, if you have an opportunity to do a half heat mold while you're trying them on at a retail shop, I recommend doing that. But ultimately, they're going to be good out of the box, and they're going to be even better once you heat mold them.
For sure. Well, let's start talking more about some specific tech and spec, starting off with your TF9, who's designed for that elite roller hockey player looking for ultimate performance, because you guys, you brought out all the big guns on this. So, let's kind of work our way from the outside in. You already mentioned the carbon fiber, but as far as, the tongue as well as the liner, what are we going to find here?
So it's going to be very similar boot to our TF9 ice boot. So if you're going to have the carbon fiber, pure carbon fiber shell. That's the only material we're using in there other than the thermoplastic polymers, which create the heat moldable effect of the shell. Mm-hmm. We've got our high grade nylon toe cap, which you're going to get protection on both sides, the top and front. We've got a redesigned side panel. The tongue in the TF9 is our lightweight, thinner, lower profile tongue. Really, it's quite comfortable, nice and light. And then on the liner, you're going to have our Clarino liner. So it's hydrophobic, antimicrobial treated.
Right, and very durable too. Mm-hmm. With an investment like this, you want to make sure it lasts. Absolutely. And then let's finish this up with below the boot. As far as the chassis, the wheels, and the bearings, what do we find on your TF9?
So if you're starting with the chassis, it's a magnesium chassis with powder-coated surface. So you got really good durability, really good lightweight. The bearings, we got Revision Pro Plus bearings in them. And then we got the Revision Flex wheels on them with the 8076 asymmetrical design.
Perfect. And like we talked about off air too, I'm a big fan of those flex wheels as an ice hockey player moving back over into roller hockey, because it does have dual durometers depending on which side you flip it. So if you are an ice hockey player looking for a high-end off-ice training skate, make sure you put the softer durometers at the end and the harder durometers in the middle, and it creates somewhat of a rocker sensation. You're not going to get that exact feel, but
that's a great tip.
Yeah. And then, so let's hop into the TF7 now, because we pretty much covered all the specs in the TF9. You mentioned that we have a fiberglass shell instead of the carbon fiber. But as far as the tongue goes and the liner, what do we find on the TF7?
Yeah, so those are some of the other differences in the TF7. Toe cap's the same, side panel's going to be the same except for the little model icon. The tongue is different. With the TF7, you're going to have a thicker, heavier felt type tongue. There is a dual density foam in it. In my opinion, it's a fantastic tongue. It's just a bit thicker and it's a bit heavier. Right. The liner, it's going to be, we call it a black wick, but essentially it's more of a woven liner. It's not a non-woven type Clarino. So it's going to pull the sweat away from your foot more as opposed to wicking it down to the bottom of the skate.
Right. Just a little more traditional as far as the tongue. And then something we didn't really touch on in that TF9 tongue, if you haven't checked out the stock skates on the ice hockey side, you wouldn't know that these are adjustable and replaceable. So can you walk me through that as well?
Absolutely. So they're actually attached with a Velcro tab right here. So you can lift this Velcro tab up and then get your hand in there and push down, and you can pull the tongue right out. So with that, you're able to adjust the position of the tongue for fit. So some players may want to have the skate really tight around the toes. So for those players, we recommend lift the tab up, push the tongue in further, put the tab back down, and then put the skate on. Right. Or they may have players that have a higher volume foot and they don't want to have anything touching the top of their foot in this toe area. So then you pull the tongue out. So you can really customize fit with the tongue positioning. The other benefit of that is you can actually swap the tongue out. So we are going to be at some point offering aftermarket tongues so consumers can go in and buy their perfect tongue to go with the pair of skates that they just purchased.
Perfect. And then something that is also replaceable we didn't touch on yet is that Tendon Guard. So can you kind of tell me the concept behind that too?
Absolutely. So for this Tendon Guard's been, well, it was designed probably 6-7 years ago. It's been in use for quite a while, but traditionally we always had it attached with a copper rivet, which of course any pro shop can swap that out, but you can't do that at home. Now what we've done is we've replaced the copper rivet with a T-nut that's actually housed in the plastic and then a bolt that goes through the inside. Okay. And the skates will come with a tool that you can use to take that bolt out and take the Tendon Guard off. Right.
Because these are things that, typically skates, they do tend to break down. You will see a tongue rip out, or you will see someone break a Tendon Guard. So instead of having to replace an entire skate, just pick up a replacement set.
Exactly. And really the Tendon Guard is probably the most common area on a traditional skate that'll break. Right. So it is, like, to your point, it's nice that you can literally just replace it for very little cost.
Yeah, and very easy to replace too now with that T-nut. And then the last thing to touch on is below the boot on the TF7. What do we find on the chassis, wheels, and bearings? So
we're looking at a lightweight aluminum chassis that's anodized. Mm-hmm. So it looks great performance, but just not to the same level as the TF9. We've got the Revision ABEC 9 bearings in them. And then we've got the Revision Recoil soft wheels, still with the 8076 offset design.
Right. Yeah, just another really high quality indoor wheel. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles like that dual durometer flex wheel. But Scott, as always, I want to say thank you so much for sitting down with us and walking us through your new TF9 and TF7 skates.
Not a problem, anytime.
All right, and then for you guys at home that want to check out this full line, make sure you head over to icewarehouse.com.